Hey everyone, today we're going to take things a little bit Lex Morningstar old school. I want to brush over adulthood ADHD, why it sucks. The reason I'm revisiting this quite old school topic is because every few months or so I really experience those ADHD symptoms. They really impact me, and I feel that it's a healthy thing for me personally to actually discuss them, almost like as if I'm writing in a diary. But more so than that, in society we forget about adults with ADHD and we really do consider it more of a childhood illness. But what winds up happening is, especially those who weren't diagnosed as children, namely girls, will grow up not really understanding why they may be experiencing these certain hardships. You may have clicked on this video specifically for that reason alone. I know many of us with ADHD, especially when we discover that that's what we have or might have, go through a period of hyper-focusing and binge Googling everything about ADHD, classic ADHD symptom. Today I want to discuss quite briefly, I haven't planned this video, what adult ADHD entails and how I personally experience it. Many of us who have adult ADHD were not diagnosed as children. Girls are typically a lot harder to diagnose, or at least they used to be, because the inattentive symptoms weren't so widely understood. You often do miss the quiet kid in the background who is daydreaming as opposed to the one who bounces off the walls. So in the defense of people decades before us, give them that, kind of. But now we have the tools at our disposal to understand what the different types of ADHD are and how they present in young people. Childhood is one thing to deal with, but when you're an adult, you have all these new responsibilities. You have to essentially adult, and that can be very difficult for those who have ADHD. That's actually how I was diagnosed, by feeling that I was falling short in adulthood, that I couldn't measure up to my peers in terms of success, relationships, friendships. I'd often think that these differences between myself and my peers meant that I couldn't properly assimilate into the big wide world. Those who have adult ADHD who have not been formally diagnosed may feel as though they are time blind, they can't organize their space to save their life. They'll feel that they fall behind on certain tasks that are deemed important to make sure that our lives are functioning properly. They may have high career and job turnovers. They may have high hobby turnovers, high passion turnovers. They may experience rejection-sensitive dysphoria and emotional dysregulation. Their emotions may seem all over the place, or that they experience those emotions very intensely. If they're struggling to cope with these certain things in life, they may fall into depression, anxiety, substance abuse. They may have problems with their immediate relationships, which is very hard when you start a family and you have a partner. Very often a partner of someone with ADHD may feel that they are carrying far more of a load than what they should. This makes it very difficult for the person who has ADHD, because already they are likely feeling really bad about their circumstance. They may be feeling really guilty about how they handle things in life. There are so many things that just simply overwhelm me, where I feel my peers can handle these things so much better than me. Why do I just fall by the wayside? And it affects my self-esteem, my self-confidence, the way that I see myself in the world. And so for the adult who has ADHD, knowing that they may be affecting their closest relationships further adds that expectation on themselves and the self-judgment. And furthermore, these expectations of ourselves can come from a place of perfectionism. This perfectionist attitude can come from childhood, where the child at school, for instance, wasn't treated in the same manner as their peers, with certain consequences, or how that child is disciplined. From the get-go, that child probably already feels different from their peers and can feel very self-conscious about it. It can be even more difficult for the adult with ADHD because we have to take responsibility for our lives, which means there is no one there to essentially hold our hands through these situations. We have to appropriately deal with our symptoms and be responsible for them. I found it very difficult to really establish a social life for myself because I often feel quite self-conscious. I have compared myself a lot to my peers and feel that I kind of stick out like a sore thumb. I'm very protective of my energy, and I often think that there are many times I don't pursue certain social spaces because I try to avoid being embarrassed or being hurt, for example, which is obviously not a healthy coping mechanism, but it's the truth. My biggest challenges with having ADHD is my emotional dysregulation and rejection sensitive dysphoria. Luckily, the rejection sensitive dysphoria is something quite easy to work on in terms of building up confidence. But the emotional dysregulation, on the other hand, is far more difficult. I experience life very intensely. When there's new information that comes in, I react quite heavily to it. It's not just simply a level response to certain things in the environment. However, I am great at hiding this, and that is where the idea of masking comes in. Oftentimes we adults with ADHD mask just to get by so that people don't notice that we're different. One thing I noticed though about having ADHD that works without needing to simply go to therapy or take medication is that I begin to feel more positive, sleep well when I have small goals that I can apply myself to. Small achievable goals, I might add, especially when they are creative pursuits. When I know that I can complete those, I feel confident about myself, and that confidence is really what carries me through. It makes life worth living. It gives me a sense of purpose. And if anything, we who have ADHD need to feel that we have a sense of purpose. Everyone needs to feel that they have a sense of purpose. But for those who have ADHD, when we really meet those certain goals and really realize our potential and our purpose, is what really makes us tick. It's what releases the dopamine. I may be impulsive, I may have unfinished projects, my house may be a mess, I may prioritize my life wrong, I may not have a certain confidence in myself or a certain conviction, but I know that if anything, without ADHD, I wouldn't be who I am. And it is cliche and cheesy as that sounds, it really is the truth. I'm an expert on so many random topics. I am a jack of all arts. I can offer very unique, out-of-the-box perspectives. I can read between the lines. And while I'm terrible at problem solving, I can see the big picture. What's the hardest thing about having ADHD for you in adulthood? Has this impacted the way that you go about life, your jobs, your careers, your family, your friends? What are the kinds of strategies you use to help deal with it? I hope you guys have a good day, night, morning, evening, wherever you are, and I'll see you guys all again for the next video. Bye!